morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We are really excited to have you here. We have an esteemed panel, and I'm hoping that the conversation this evening is going to be lively. I am going to leave the official welcome to our board member, Mr. Kyle James, so I'd like to invite him up. Yay!
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to, I think, BD's first event of the year. I am honored to be here. This is pretty cool. I just got an email that says, hey, you want to welcome for this event? I'm like, sure. 3 days later, I'm like, what's the event? I got to figure that out, and I thought I had some time to prepare before today, but I just started preparing about 15 minutes ago. So bear with me. Because this is an awesome sight to see out here. So many people that are interested in entrepreneurship. This really excites me. So I want to say welcome, and just trying to think of what to say. First of all, congratulations to you all, because the first step to really get out here is hard, you know. And we're talking about like merging your businesses into tech, which for some can be very daunting, you know, it's scary for some. So just the fact that you're here to learn about from the esteemed panelists here, I hope and I expect that you will get a lot out of these sessions. So please, I encourage you to be very interactive and show the energy and the enthusiasm that you have for your own businesses. So I was just thinking of maybe 5 quick points that I can share with you. Like you, I have a very strong interest in entrepreneurship. I just like the idea of creating something out of nothing. It excites me very much, and excites me to kind of bounce ideas off of friends and to see what works, and am I solving, you know, a world crisis, or am I just solving something that, you know, relates to people like me? And that sort of an analysis and figuring out has always been kind of the top of my mind. So today, I want to encourage you with these quick 5 things as on your entrepreneurial journeys. So number 1 is really just set personal goals. I know with our businesses, we always, you know, trying to create a business plan and try to make sure that we have our objectives, our vision, our mission. But don't forget that, you know, it's a personal journey. Entrepreneurship is a part of your overall personal journey. So don't forget your mission, your vision, your objectives. Every single day, making sure that everything that you do aligns with those goals. And when you have those goals clearly set out, it allows you to be very much more targeted when you start to, you know, move in certain directions. So it's almost like your temperature gauge on what it is that you are supposed to be or meant to be doing. Number 2, maintain a healthy routine. And I know this is cliche, or we hear these things all the time, but remember, exercise, you know, eat healthy. Put yourself in a position so that your best ideas come out. You know, it's just so important. Even if it's 20 minutes a day, do something where your body is moving and you're treating it the right way so that you can be at your best. Number 3, a morning routine, and that kind of goes with the healthy routine. It's waking up in the morning and figuring out what are your goals for the day. You know, I find when I started doing a morning routine myself, it allowed me to be more intentional throughout the day. It allowed me to, by noon, I'm looking back at what I said I wanted to achieve during the day and kind of just clicking myself back to make sure at the end of the day you feel accomplished. There's so many days in the past have gone by for me where I feel like I've been so busy and get to the end and feel like I don't accomplish nothing. So please set goals, figure out where you are, figure out what at the end of the day will make you feel accomplished. Number 4, I think this is a big one, the motivation. Something I like to do, whether I'm in the shower or going to work, is just putting on motivational, whether it's talks, whether it's listening to stories of others. I mean, YouTube has done a great job of putting it in one space for you to find within 30 seconds. Go out there, allow yourself to pour positivity into your mind. Because as an entrepreneur, it's very, 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 very easy to fall down a black hole and feel like you're the only one there and the whole world is against you. Allow yourself to remember that it's a journey, and it's normally a very long journey. So don't not only put positivity in your mind, but find others who are going through the same, the same journey. This is a room full of people who are interested in entrepreneurship. Introduce yourself, network, get excited about what you're doing and see someone else get excited for you. And then stay in contact, because it really is those words sometimes and somebody understanding where you are that will just get you to that next day. And sometimes that next day is truly the breakthrough that you need. And lastly, something I find very hard for myself is reward yourself. Normally we're always in this rat race where we have to feel like, I gotta make this amount of money before I'm happy or before I feel successful. And then you get there and that's not, enough. And then it's a next goal, And then you go 2-3 years without actually realizing that how far you've come. So celebrate each win. If you get one client, pop a bottle, get excited about it, reward yourself, because it's a journey, it's a journey. And again, you will always want to be at that next level. That's inevitable. That is what an entrepreneur does. That's the mentality of an entrepreneur. So don't forget to just celebrate yourself. So those are my 5 things right there. I hope that, and I know you will get a lot of these panelists. They are awesome. And I'm excited to hear the conversation for the evening. So thank you very much for allowing me up here, and good luck to all of you on your respective journeys.
Thank you, Kyle. I think that was very timely. He should have been on the panel. But tonight, I really want this to be sort of an interactive conversation. Now, I have about a gajillion questions to ask the panelists, but my hope is that you have brought with you your own specific questions, and you can ask them as you travel along your entrepreneurial journey. But just so I can get a sense of who's in the room. Now, how many of you actually have your own businesses or are entrepreneurs yourselves? Okay. And how many of you are thinking about starting something? Yes. Okay, great, perfect. So you're in the right place. There are some seats available, so if anyone is standing, I see about 3 or 4 or maybe 5 seats here on the right side. So get comfortable, because we're about to spend an hour grilling you guys. You ready? Okay, before we get to the questions though, I'm gonna give each of them an opportunity to kind of introduce themselves and give you a summary of their journey, and then we'll get into the question and answer. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna sit right there next to them. All right, and we're not in order, so I think we're in order by the booklet. All right, Tori, you're up.
Is this on? Oh, it's on. Good evening, everyone. A little better. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay. My name is Tori Kayla. I am a virtual assistant and content creator, and I also founded Virtual Girl Boss. So I started my entrepreneurial journey back in 2015. I started as a beauty, lifestyle, fashion blogger. Really what I was doing was I was taking photos before I went to work in the morning and then posting them on the internet, so I thought I was doing something cute. But from that little blogging experience, I was able to book national campaigns, work with CoverGirl, work with a variety of different amazing brands. So I learned a little bit about entrepreneurship, and I got paid along the way. But in 2019, last year, I found that I was conflicted. I was also working a corporate job and just doing creative things on the side. I'd made all these amazing connections. I traveled all over and met other bloggers and content creators, but I was still at my job. So I got to a breaking point and I was like, you know what, I am going to take a leap. and I took that leap. And we're here today. So I was able to leverage the connections that I had made in the blogging and content creation world to then become a virtual assistant, which I do a variety of things from social media management as well as general administrative stuff, just virtually. So that's a little bit about what I do. And then in doing so, everyone was like, hey, I want to do that as well, which is how Virtual Girl Boss started. It is my new baby. And I'm really grateful to help other women just start their own virtual businesses. So that's a little bit about what I do.
Awesome, thank you. And I think next up we have Carla.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I am Carla George, and I am out here grateful to be with this wonderful panel, and I'm grateful that you all have come out to learn a little bit more. I am just a woman trying to walk out my God-given gifts and purpose for my life. And in doing that, I found that he would download many things into my spirit. Hence, I am an author of the Proverbs 31 woman book, More Than the Good Wife. And from there, I started my podcast. It wasn't my intention to do a podcast when I did the book, but it seemed like a natural progression because people were asking for another book, not realizing the amount of work it goes into writing a book. So I felt that there was a need to have that connection. And I figured a podcast is a great way to do that. I honestly only started listening to podcasts myself about 2 years ago. So it was really new for me, and I felt the need to reach out to a coach to help me along the way. So I am glad to say that my podcast as of this week has reached 3,000 downloads, so I'm happy about that. Woo! And I have been within the top 10 in Bermuda on the spiritual and Christian side and religious side of things since August. That's when I started my podcast in August. Now, what is next for me? I am actually hosting my first virtual summit this weekend. It's called the Pushed Into Purpose virtual summit, and I forgot to say that my podcast is called Pushed Into Purpose. And the podcast is about pushing go-getters like yourselves beyond the hurdles and challenges that may arise from time to time in your life and into the life of purpose that God has purpose for you. Because as go-getters, as you know, we do come up against different challenges, whatever it may be. It may be ourselves, it may be financial, or just maybe fears, right? So I do interviews on my podcast, and I also do solo shows, and we go through different processes of just different challenges that other people may have gone through or things that I have learned along the way. I know podcasting is not extremely popular in Bermuda, but we are changing that, okay? And tonight we're going to talk about that, why podcasting can turn into a business and how you can monetize from that and how you can help others. It is a way for you to use your voice if that's something that you're interested in. You can do it through writing a book, through blogging, and also podcasting. So thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Next up is Colin.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year to you guys. So my name is Colin Rigo. I'm the founder and CEO of Sargasso Sea. Thank you. We have a few teammates in the building as well, so shout out to you guys. And so kind of where my journey was, where in 2015 I graduated from university and came back to start up a marketing company, also try to do this online ordering thing, right? Back 5 years ago. It failed miserably. I had 2 partners at the time, brought on because I didn't understand tech, I didn't understand the food industry, so I wanted to bring on people that could help make a better team because I believe in that. It's one person, you can't do anything by yourself. You need to align yourself with others. And so tried that out, took up a carpentry job while I was doing that, tried to fund my business, went to the banks, they shut me down for my different ideas, so I felt that, even with people backing you up and saying, hey, you know, we got the collateral and the banks still don't care, so cool. You know, went back to the United States, did my journey. I was living back in Tampa for about 8 years. Finally hit a low point in my life where I was just trying to find purpose. Was really lost. I moved to Portugal, speaking a few languages, mainland Portugal, and I was like, okay, let's go venture over there. I've been over for 5 months. The first 2-3 months, I thought, hey, yeah, we'd get a job, had a management experience, education, yeah, we're good. No good. I spent 5 months in hostels trying to figure out where I could live and or where to find a job, and wasn't getting any no acceptance to any application. Applied to jobs 3 years in Bermuda, got no acceptance letters. I worked for the marketplace for almost 9 years, and so eventually things hit rock bottom, and I was in Portugal. And I moved to the South. I pushed myself to do something that was uncomfortable, to learn something new, try to find myself, which is something that Kyle said, which really resonated with me. You need to have personal purpose, and at that time I did not. And from that point, I hit rock bottom. I said, well, what are my options? And I kept avoiding Bermuda because I wanted to keep educating myself and keep putting myself in environments that wasn't known, right, or that's uncomfortable, unfamiliar. And through that, I realized, holy crap. In Bermuda, we're sitting on a bunch of opportunities. There's so many issues going on in this nation, and that automatically translates to opportunities. And so I wanted to reapproach this again, and I did, and I gave it a shot. But I did it a little bit better in terms of started bringing more people onto my team, started like reaching out to peers like the people around us and like yourselves. I'm actually very excited to learn from more about the panelists and you guys, because that's what it's all about. And it's moments like these that I live for every day in terms of the entrepreneurship world, in the entrepreneurship space. It's how much can I learn from each other, and how can we come together and make that. So that's kind of my entrepreneurship journey and where we are now today. And I'm actually very thankful to be on the panel. I'm honored and humbled, and to be here with you guys and what we can all create as the future of Bermuda.
Thank you, Carla. And Carla and Leanne, drop it.
Good evening, everybody. How are we? All right. Well, I've got some pretty intimidating co-hosts, but we'll go for it. So, Leanne and Carl, we met about 5-6 years ago working at sea. So we worked on private yachts as crew for 5 years, and but before that, we both, I guess, had very different journeys. I was a college dropout. I went for a year, dropped out, came back to Bermuda and said, I'm going to work for a year and figure out what I want to do, save up some money. And I came back and said, got to go. So I went to a trade school graduate. I'm a big time trade school fan. I wish there was more trade school stuff here or push kids into that. It's okay to go to a trade school. You know, it changed my life. And Leanne is from the spa background, trade school, therapist, beauty therapist, the whole 9 yards. And then what happened? I got a job doing my trade, which was boat building. I moved to Florida, and again, just trying to find your purpose, right? So I worked for a company, and there was just, I couldn't see the next step for me. I couldn't see I'll get promoted to this next year, and then I could go there. There was just kind of a flat line, and I thought, got to get out of here. So we went to sea, and like I said, that's where I met Leanne, and I think most of our stories will all end at we took this leap, right? Everyone's going to have to take a leap to get to their idea, to start the idea, even to get enough mind space to think about it. For us, it took that, so we quit our jobs on the boat, and we reached the point of being stagnant, I guess. And yeah, so we quit, and we're thinking, what do we do now? Put yourself in a position where you're uncomfortable, and something's going to happen, right? You're not going to fail yourself, or you might fail yourself in a little way, right? But you're going to push forward, and you're going to create, and you're going to follow your passion in that point because you're scared, you're nervous. And that's where we are. Anyhow, that led us to Drop It Delivery. I didn't say that we Drop It Delivery, did I? So, sorry, yeah. We founded Drop It Delivery in January of this past year. So we didn't launch until June, so it's not technically our year anniversary. But what we are is a company that moves things from A to B, simply. A lot of people know us for Lindo's online. We deliver groceries. We deliver all sorts of stuff. If you need it moved, we can move it. But yeah, we're very excited for this, and it's her turn.
I can just add a little bit to that. Hi, everybody. Is there anybody that's really taken a complete change of career, change of path? Anybody? A couple of people. well, that's me, you know, and because I'm from a spa background, I never thought in a million years I'd be working with tech, groceries, anything to do with what we're doing right now. But sometimes you've got to take them little pivots to get to where you want to be. So if anyone has any questions about not being what you think is the right path, I'm your girl.
Awesome. And then our last panelist, but certainly not least, Miss Jen.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? I am.
You want me to do the clicker for you?
Sure. Okay. I'm Jennifer Mccarron, and I own Animal and Garden House. The reason why I wanted to become an entrepreneur is I always had the desire to own my own business. So I was in the corporate world for many years and decided I needed a change. It was consuming too much of my time, and I needed to devote more time with my family. So I made the change. And Animal and Garden House seemed to be a good fit. I have to read. Yeah, my career change was from the corporate world. And being a small business owner, I came across many challenges, and then with the challenges also came a lot of gratification. I had the flexibility to work at what I was passionate at, and also spend time with my children that were growing right before my eyes, and so that's how I started. The business also entailed a lot of my hobbies. I was passionate about my pets, my animals. I grew up on a farm, so I had a menagerie of animals. I had a hobby of growing my vegetables, so it just all seemed to be a perfect fit for me. Then in June of 2019, we closed because of many aspects to it, and then the final Belco closed the road, which had a huge impact on the business, and just being with customers that didn't want to see us close, and family that just kept coming up with ideas, we came about with the idea of going web-based. So here I am. We have been web-based, I guess, since about November. We've been up and running, still entering, and so all this is new, and I'm getting a lot of learning experience from all the panel here and BEDC, and I thank them for inviting me.
Thanks for coming. All right. So I hope you can see we have a varied panel, and I'm hoping that each one of them can provide you with some information or some knowledge that will assist you as you go along your journey. So we're going to get into these questions, guys. And in your agenda, you'll see that we try to create some topics, right? So next is next. So that's how you get started, why you get started, the implications. And then leveraging technology, about how you actually use technology to start and grow your business. And then we're going to get into making the net work for you. So these are like tips and tricks and strategies. Because, you know, it's easy for us to say you have to do this, but it's different when you actually have to do it, right? So I would like them to give you the real deal about what's required and how to get things done. And then we're going to talk about scaling, right? That is super important, especially when you're in an island that is only so big. You only have so many customers. So if you're going to look for longevity, how do you do that? And so hopefully they can provide you with some examples of that. And then I also want to talk about transitioning from brick and mortar to online, because you've seen quite frequently there are a lot of businesses that are closing. So what happens? Does that mean that business is done and over? And I say no. I mean, we have an example of that on the panel. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And so if anyone in the audience is in that position where you are working in a brick and mortar and you're like, I can't keep doing this, the overhead is too high, then hopefully we can share some information about how that transition helped. So when you're talking about starting a business online, what are some of the things that you have to consider first when you're thinking about getting started? And anybody can take a step. So. Leanne, I think so.
I think for us it was the developers and finding the right person to build what you want to build, and also that's going to take on your vision. So we chose our developer because we offloaded all this, what was the thing? Brain dump. I just learned the brain dump term, which is really cool. So we offloaded to him as we called many people beforehand, and we were in Miami at the time, so we were, we had lots of options. And he was the first one that said, yeah, all right. Like never even thinking or asking too many questions, which actually said down the line, you should have asked more questions. But he just went for it, and there and then, I think it took us about an hour to decide we're going to go with him. So finding your good core person.
So how important was it? How did you make the decisions? You said you spoke to a lot of people. So what was the thing that made you go with him?
We were calling, and people were, I'm in an hour, and I'll get back to you in a while, or in a few days, or next week. And we won everything yesterday, so in a while weren't good enough. We want to know an answer now. And the guy that we spoke to, he said, yeah, we can certainly do that. And actually, we asked him to meet him because we're very, we like to see, touch, and feel, and all that. And we've never met him to this day, and he's fantastic, but he's just, I don't know what he looks like. But he's great.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Tori, did you want to add?
Yes, and it kind of goes into what you were saying, actually. When you want to when you're about to transition to doing something online, it's important to figure out how can I convey or get across to my audience what I want to get across. And I think that's really important because when you are transitioning to an online business, you're no longer just competing with the guy next door, the brick and mortar. You're competing with Amazon, you're competing with Fashion Nova, you're competing with everybody. So the thing that's going to set you apart is being able to tell your story and really connect with an audience. It is so important from the developer, from the designer, from the graphics, from the branding, to really, I see a lot of people who start and they're like, we'll get to it. We'll just throw up a website now and then whatever. But that's like saying, I'll put gas in the car once I get there. You have to do the right things up front. And a lot of, we've talked about it, a lot of when you're going into an online business, you have to properly convey what it is you're here to do to the audience because you're competing with the whole internet. The whole internet.
One thing I'd like to add is to think about the service that you're providing or the product that you're providing. For me, I provide a service right now, so I didn't need a full-fledged website. So you got to think about cost. So when you do get into having a developer, you have costs that go behind that. Does your website need all of that, right? So these are the type of things that you need to think about from the beginning. I just got a templated website. I use Weebly. They have templated website because that's what I needed at that time. However, now that I'm transitioning and scaling my business, I'm noticing, I may have to actually get a web developer now in order to accommodate what I want to do in the future. However, from the outset, think about this because there are costs involved with your hosting site, with your developer, and are you able to have those costs up front? Do you necessarily need that cost right away, or could you start with a templated website developer and just use what they have, which is probably about, $100, and then like $30 a year or something like that, and then build in order to get to the grandiose website that you need. So that's something to think about. Now, if you do have a product like Drop It and Sargoso, you're going to need a full-fledged website in order to fulfill the need for your customers, right? But someone like me who just provides a service, I didn't need that up front. So that's something to think about. What type of product, what type of service do you have? And is it worth the cost up front, or do you work towards saving in order to hire a website developer to provide this, very sophisticated website that you would need?
Yeah.
Just to add, because I couldn't agree. That's the first thing is finding out what you need and what the UX and the UI of that application is going to be, or the website. For example, so I won't touch on that because I think you guys hit it on the head, but for an example is 5 years ago I tried doing online ordering for restaurants with just a website. But I realized 2 years ago that I needed to get an app down, because how many of you have or use at least one app on your phone every day? I think every single one of us, right? So, and that takes it to the next level. What do what is it that you're trying to sell, and what is the experience of your user, and how complex does it need to be?
So when we're talking about apps, okay, what should come first? It's like the chicken and the egg, right? So do you do the website first, or do you do an app? Since everybody has a phone, when you're thinking about starting a business, should you be taking that into consideration early, or do you just wait and see? What would you say?
I would just say yes. Yes, because so Drop It, you guys have, it's a web app as well, right?
So it's a website with a mobile version. We're going to have competing opinions here,
Yeah,
which is going to be good.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Yeah. So we're web-based website.
Right. So, and honestly, once you put it down as an app, it functions quite almost like an app. It really comes down to the functionality of it. So for me, it was like, well, where am I going to be? So I got a lot of consultant advice from an app developer. Well, what is this technology, right? Because when I first started, I didn't understand tech to where I do today. So it's like, well, if I do take this avenue, how is it going to look in 5 years? Do you own the source code, or are you licensing it? Do you take a licensing approach to minimize those costs, or do you hire a full-out developer? And because that gets very costly. R&D, research and development, you can spend millions of dollars on building something from scratch. So there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. Find the right people to build what you need, because it's all out there on the web. So again, if it works and it gets the job done, then great. Drop It has a great. You guys have 27,000 products on your.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you have to think about what are you using it for, right? So yeah, we have different stores, and so it's quite different, and it works for what they're doing, and it's great.
Yeah. So we had to contemplate this, right? App or website, chicken or egg, which one comes first? Essentially, it's going to come down to cost. Right off the bat, first things first, cost. What's it going to cost for an app? What's it going to cost for a website? The website will always be cheaper, in my experience anyhow. But there's a middle ground as well. So you've got a website, you've got a progressive web app, and you've got an application, which is a native app, which is like Sargasso. Progressive web app, I think, is the future of applications. Like it's basically a website that is downloadable like an app, but doesn't store all of its data on your phone. Correct me if anyone knows more than I do. But we've kind of researched into doing this because there's a cost to making the switch as well. So like Colin said, they made up their mind that they wanted to be an app, and they invested in that. We made up our mind that we could get pretty far with a website, and then when we're in a position to turn it into an app, if it's necessary, we'll do that. So it all depends on your vision, but definitely I think cost is going to be the biggest factor. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but for an application, does it take longer to make changes? Apps, one thing I've learned through my journey is that apps are a lot more complex. They're like a living organism. So the website's a little bit more stable, given the back-end technology. But when you have apps, they're almost like living organisms. And sometimes you can have an issue or a glitch, per se, and it can be a glitch on the iOS device, but not the Android, or not the Android app. And then sometimes it can be a glitch on the web app. And not neither of the apps, but they all integrate into one. So it can be a little more complex, Carl.
Okay, so a lot of what you said kind of went over my head. So for those of us who are like, okay, I know I need to go online, I know I need to do this. How do you bridge that gap, right? Because you said you didn't know anything about technology. You're a manager at a spa. You sell pet products, and so how do you say, I know I want to sell these things, and I know using technology is the future? How do you make that? Because now you sound like a tech guy college, right? So how did you get there? Like, what was required to be able to get to the point where you're like, yes, I have this app? How much knowledge and learning had to take place?
Just research. All of us can do. Like, honestly, I did not know anything about tech 2 years ago. I mean, just the basics that we all know in here, the common knowledge of what it is, but research and the keenness to want to learn. And that's what drove me to now sound like a techie, because I'm not really. And that's what's amazing is that any one of you can be an app owner. I never thought in a million years that I'd own an app, right? So really just research. There's so much information out there.
I'll second that. I'm not a tech guy. Okay, I love tech, like things around the house and gadgets, but I'm not a tech guy. I had to learn the terms as well. YouTube, like Kyle said, is amazing, right? For teaching us both just how to have a conversation with the developer.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you need to know what is possible or what a website is capable of doing before you can ask for how to do it, right? So you check out all the best websites out there and say, I like that, right? And we've signed up to so many different companies and done a purchase just to see how the flow works, right? Just so we know, okay, that's how that works. Let's ask for that, right? We didn't really know. And we go to the developer and he's like, oh, you guys seem to know a lot. Yeah, we do.
Jen, let me ask you that same question, because you literally were in a brick and mortar store. And so what was that transition like, and how did you get through it?
Frightening. I knew absolutely nothing about technology, just computers, going on, doing Amazon orders. Mm-hmm. That was kind of my limitation. I had my phone. I knew how to make phone calls or, do a little text message from, now and then. But when customers first started saying, well, why don't you go web-based? And so we started researching, and so I found a company, and when we went and spoke with her, she was just like, this sounds fantastic.
Okay.
And she was just like upbeat. She was ready for us to get this going and get online. She says it's not, it's something that's readily available in Bermuda, mm-hmm. and we are complete web-based, where you can do your complete purchase. And the other thing we're doing different is we do deliveries as well, mm-hmm. so we offer that. So, but no, I thought down my road I was just going to be worried about retirement, mm-hmm. And what am I going to do at 65? And nope. And so this has just been one big step for me, that understanding technology a bit more now, and where it's going to take me.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, and one of the answers you mentioned, well, the bottom line is research, right? So we can all do a little bit of research. Thank you, you too. So if you're getting started and all of that, make sure you put that on one of your top priorities, looking at other sites and things like that to try and get a sense of what you want your future business to look like. But I want to talk about costs, right? Because I'm thinking, I could do like a free web developing thing, put up the website, and bam, done. I'm finished. What are some of the costs associated with actually getting started? Carla, Yeah.
So I don't like to spend a lot of money up front. So I'm going to give you the cheaper route. So you do have to think about, again, like I said in the beginning, the type of website that you want, how much you want to invest in it up front. Now with the podcast, you have to get a hosting site for a podcast, and you can do different stages or levels of your hosting site depending how much material you plan on putting out. So initially, of course, I started with one of the lower cost ones just to see how it goes, and then you can increase it as you go along. And then, essentially from a podcasting point of view, it's not very expensive if you get somebody to guide you along the way, because what you end up doing is spending unnecessary money because you don't know what you're doing. You can do the research. There's plenty of people out there online who will guide you through podcasting, etc. But that's from the website. Mm-hmm. Of course, with podcasting, you need equipment, right? Now, my podcast coach was like, oh, just get a Yeti mic, which is a pretty reasonable mic. But, my husband was like, oh, no, we're not doing that. So don't follow my example. He got something grandiose, and we had this whole studio and everything. A little bit overboard, but it works. But you do have to think about the equipment you get when you do podcasts. So you do need a mic. You do need a laptop or a computer. And you do need some sort of soundproofing devices around you. You can do it cheaply with pillows, etc. Because I have on other different Facebook groups, and people post all sorts of pictures of their podcasting studio, which is pillows around them just to condense the sound. Because as you know, sound is a very important thing when it comes to anything over the air, television, radio, podcasting, okay? So think about the sound, what's around you. You got to condense, or what they say, try to get the room as dead as possible, i.e., carpet on the floors, soundproofing around the room, and anything, and especially the mic. The mic is going to be important, and the equipment that you use to edit. And I had to, well, most people, if you have a Mac, you have GarageBand, so that's a free app that comes with your Mac, and that's how I do my editing. Some people do buy the Adobe editing, but I'm not very savvy in Adobe, but GarageBand works perfectly fine. I do all my editing myself. Now, if you are not into editing, you will have to hire an editor. But it's this wonderful app called Fiverr that allows you to get different services for very minimal cost, depending on the person and what type of editing you're looking for. And they usually charge per 15 minutes or something like $30 per 15 minutes to edit. But I took the time to learn how to edit. I actually enjoy it, and that's something that I never knew how to do, but I took the time, learned it, and it's something that I enjoy doing, and I'm working really hard to get my editing time down so that I can provide that service one day, right? Trying to think of them, and then graphics. Because if you are podcasting or anything else, you have to advertise and market your product. And you have to do that through wonderful graphics on Instagram, Facebook, etc. That's the way I advertise most of my services. I do it through that and through email, which is another platform that you have to think about, is who's going to be an email provider as well. And that can also be another cost that you have to consider. I think I covered that.
No, that's great. I didn't. So it sounds like when you're utilizing technology and YouTube and all of that, a lot of the things that you would typically have to pay for, you can actually do yourself. So when you talk about saving money when you're trying to initially get started, I think that's a great opportunity.
I would say you can start a business. You can start for like $100. You can't run it for $100, right? You can get started by buying the domain name, setting up with your website host. Website hosting is about like $3-ish a month if you pay monthly. If you do an annual plan, it's cheaper. You can buy a domain for $12. I'm trying to think of what else you were saying. Oh, I don't even know that. Look at me.
Not anymore. He said, what's free? I've been robbed.
If you are selling things online, you also have to think about your payment processor. So like, that's something that like a lot of people do not realize up front. They're like, okay, I'm gonna sell something for $10. I'm getting like $10 whole. And then the payment processor, which is the bank or the company that's allowing you to take the card online or take the payment, takes 2% plus $1, depending, no, 0.2%. It takes a percentage of your money, so factoring that into your costs. You know, if there's any other costs involved in your business, if it's a physical thing, you're shipping it. If it's something that they purchase and you're supposed to be delivering it to them, gas. But for the most part, when it comes to digital, I think you can start something for about $100. You cannot run it for $100, but you can start a little something, and then pivot and go from there and continue to invest in what you realize is necessary.
I see you want to.
Me?
Yeah.
Got an itchy hand. So if I was to just start talking, I would kind of go right over the base of all of this. And so I decided to step back, and I think I'll break it down for people that don't have any idea kind of what we're talking about. So when you're buying a website, right, you're buying a domain name, which is www.whatever.com or .bm. You're basically buying a street on the internet. Let's call it that, right? And that street is is hosted, right? So it's hosted within a city. Let's say Bermuda is a city. So you have to buy hosting to own that street first. So rent hosting is what you pay a monthly fee to keep your website in this computer somewhere around the world. So the hosting fee can range from, it depends on the size of the website, depends on how much data you have on the website and what type of action is going on. And yeah, so then you've got your website, it's being hosted, then you want to create your email, like, so I want to be carl@dropit.bm. How do I do that? Most of the places where you are going to buy the domain, whether it's GoDaddy or what's the Bermuda one? BermudaNick.bm. Most domains are $99, I believe. On GoDaddy, which is an American company, you can get a carlvincent.com for probably $5.99. But it just depends on what you want. What do you want to represent? Like, we're Dropit.bm because we're Bermuda based and we want it to be relevant to everyone. And then, yeah, the cost goes into design and the build of whatever your idea is, right? So there's lots of templates. Yeah, depends on, do you want to sell things or are you showcasing what I have in my store, right? So it two completely different things. And then if you're selling things, you've got the payment gateway, which is what allows you to accept payments online. And you go to your bank, whoever that is, and create a merchant account, which then gets you access, which then bridges the gap from your bank account to your website. And somewhere in between there, you also have to figure out the payment gateway, which is I guess there's two bridges here. From your website for your website to be able to take a credit card payment, you have to basically have let's say a virtual card reader on your site. That's what you're paying for as with the payment gateway. And then in order to take that payment and turn that money get that money to your bank account, you get the merchant account from the bank. But in all of these are little percentages of cents that you lose. And this is something that you don't realize and you don't plan into this goal where she said, yeah, I sold something for $10 and by the time it got to my bank account, it was about $6.15. So the margin just changed completely, right? So now I need to sell 5 of those to make that amount of money that I thought I was going to have landed in my account. It's just, like duty. You order something off Amazon, you think it's $15, you get it here, it's for $65. You're like, damn. It's the same thing. But it's just the cost of doing business online. Yeah. But the glory to business online is you can do whatever you want to do. You can sell whatever you want to sell. It's the Wild West, right? And I think we should take advantage of it, but definitely keep those things in mind. Figure out what your bank's going to charge you for transactions, because for us, we were like, whoa. Yeah. Like, okay, change the plan,
I mean, it definitely adds up, so that's important. So when you're thinking about starting, yes, it's a lot cheaper to be online and selling something as opposed to being in a brick and mortar store, but don't dismiss the actual costs because it will impact your bottom line. And so when you're figuring out or trying to figure it out, you start taking stock of what that's going to be. And Colin, you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because what Carl started talking about, payment gateways can actually be very complex, but yeah, it's so simple. But I think it's complex because the institutions that provide these services don't educate us enough. So I went through almost a 2-month process just trying to get that on board, just to simplify what Carl's saying, because it is a lot. We can simplify it in 3 steps. Because I want to kind of see where we're at. How many of you guys want to or currently or want to sell something online? So almost more than 50%. So there's a 3-step process to that complex thing that Carl was talking about, accepting payments online. Set up your bank account, as he said. I'm just summarizing for you, Carl. Go to the bank. We use Clarion, and they've been so supportive with us, and we're not getting no endorsements here, but they've been, absolutely. So I've banked with HSBC for all my life. They have great technology. I would love to work with them, but as a small entrepreneur, they told me 3 months that I had to wait. We don't have time. We don't have 3 months to wait. We need to start our business like yesterday, right? So this is a business account? Business account, yes, ma'am. Merchant account, yeah. So go to the bank. Again, I suggest Clarion. I know Butterfield's pretty good too. And then you need, once you set that up, then you set up your payment gateway. And we use First Atlantic Commerce, FAC. I think you guys use authorized.net, correct?
Yeah, though we have two options here, FAC or authorized.net. Yeah.
And then thirdly, integrate them all. So once you have your merchant account, once you've set up your payment gateway, it's just a bunch of forms. Don't be intimidated. Just fill them out, get them done. If you miss something, they'll correct you. And, don't be afraid of getting it wrong. Just do it. I don't know what I was doing. I had to fill it out 3 different times or make adjustments, until we got it right. And because I didn't understand what that was, but it was such a journey on just trying to get that information. So 1, 2, 3. And then and the third one, integrating. So whether it's Wix, whether it's Weebly, whatever platform that you're going to build your store on, you need to have, or somebody's going to build your website for you, the ability to connect all those pieces. So right now, Wix and Weebly, I think those are, so cost of development, I go back to that point, those are great starts. If you want to sell something online and you want to just get it rolling, get some traction so you can get some cash flows going, start it cheap, $100, like you said. It's not gonna cost you that to, it's not gonna cost you that to run it, but at least start it, and therefore you can get cash flows. You get all about getting that traction as fast as possible. You don't want to be, dragging your feet for 6 months trying to perfect it. No, how can I get whatever I have now to sell? Yeah. And that's so important. And the reason why I wanted to elaborate, because I just wanted to summarize, but the reason why I wanted to talk on this one, because after my experience with Ignite and working with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and I'm sure we can all relate, we all had a product that we wanted to sell, but we couldn't get over that hump to making the product online. And that is so important because of 2 things. People have a set disposable set of income every month, right? So that means once they've spent that, they have nothing to spend. They're waiting for the next month or the next week. So that's important. But secondly, when I'm sitting here and I'm trying to wave and give you my money, and you make it so inconvenient for me to spend,
That's right.
I'm going to walk away, or I'm going to go to somewhere else and spend that money. And as humans, we're creatures of habit. So we gain some sort of gratification or, instant gratification by spending something and gaining something in return. So all of our businesses here, if I can't buy, the treats for my pet, I'm gonna go down the street because I love my pet. I'm a big animal head too, So I got my goats and my dogs in my backyard. Those are my animals. And if I can't spend that money, if I can't go onto your website or whatever and give you my money when I want your product, you've literally worked so hard through the marketing, through your UI, through the experience, and you get to your checkout and it's send a form, do a bank transfer, etc., etc. And that's so important in terms of the customer experience.
Yeah. I think that's great, and I'm just gonna call out, because we have some experts in the audience. So Flo, can you hold your hand up from Clarion? So if you guys have questions, please do, at the end or when there's a break, you can reach out to her and she can assist you. And then Coral, I see you there as well. So Coral owns Connect Tech and is a web developer and is very familiar with payment processing and all of that as well. So one of the things that I think you said that I think is extremely important is when you're utilizing those free softwares, you have to know that they will work with Bermuda payment gateways, right? Because you can be using one, and then when it's time to turn on the payment processing, and they're like, oh, that doesn't work here. And now you would have invested whatever money, even if it was a little bit, for naught. So make sure when you're looking at those free ones that they have something that will integrate with the payment processing or payment gateways in Bermuda. And you mentioned FAC is one, and then authorized.net. And I do know Shopify, if you're selling products and stuff, that is one that you can use that will integrate with those gateways. But have that conversation with your bank, because they would know, right? They would know. And if you have a web developer, they would also know. Did you want to add something, Carla? Yeah.
Yes, and I wanted to add something because I provide a different service.
Yeah.
So I had a challenge, and I know we haven't come to that yet, but since we're talking about payment, my challenge, and this is how I got to be on the panel, was that I didn't need a merchant account because I don't sell a product on a daily basis, a monthly basis. What I have is a service, and the network that I'm in that's what we do. We provide services either quarterly, every other month, etc. It's not something that I need a merchant account for and pay those fees, those monthly fees for nothing. So I would have been wasting money. So I reached out to Jamila and I was like, listen, I need your help because I'm about to put on this online summit that requires payment, but I don't need a merchant account. And Jamila put me in contact with PTX. And I reached out to PTX, and they were very gracious in assisting me with my summit this weekend. It wasn't no fault of their own of being quick, meaning my quickness was like I needed it in 2 days, but it was a week. So they were really good in turning it around. It's just that I had already started the process. So what happened, I took quite a few payments via PayPal, and if you know, PayPal does not work with Bermuda, so my money is stuck in PayPal. So, but I can use it, I just put it to using it as an expense account because I do use PayPal quite often. So it's not a complete loss, but I said this is gonna be my expense account for the payments that I did receive from my international customers. And then PTX has assisted me where they are taking my payments and they're using authorized.net. And we're using it like as an event on their website. So people are able to purchase full access to my sessions. That's what I needed it for because the virtual summit starts on Saturday, ends on Monday. And if you're not able to attend each night, you do have an option to purchase the package, the All Access Pass, which allows you to view the sessions at any time for a lifetime. So it's not a product like how these guys, some of these guys have. It's just a service that I provide. And I notice is also if I wanted to do coaching, etc., you just need it, like I said, either every other quarter, every other month. It's not something you need every day. And I was like, I cannot pay these merchant fees for nothing. It would just basically wipe out my inventory if I had a merchant account for no reason. And I was very thankful to PTX and to Jamila for providing this answer to my problem that I had, when was it, about 5 weeks ago? Yeah.
Great, that's a good point. So depending on what it is that you're actually doing, then you can determine what solutions you can use locally. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cami Bean Keynes, and I just recently started a business called Bermuda Glass Candy. Recently licensed it, and now I'm on to the next step into actually deciding whether I need a website or not, which I do because I want to present my product. But of course, we're talking about candy, and it goes with weight. And by the time the people come online, they order the candy and then they purchase it, it's going to be all these costs on top of what the actual candy cost. So I'm in between minds. Do I need the merchant account, or do I need something more like what you were saying with PTX? And I don't know if anything falls in the middle. But if you guys have any information in that area, I'm going to need help there.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you want to sell the glass candy or candy online, locally or internationally, or both?
I'm thinking both, because it's going to be stores here, it's going to be here locally, but I want people outside of Bermuda to be able to access the candy too, because it's very well connected to Bermuda.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
So my first thought is, okay, so you want to sell online. You want to take someone's credit card and virtually swipe it online. You have to have a merchant account and a payment gateway, unless you use PayPal and figure it out that way.
But PayPal doesn't work with Bermuda, so do we know another one that does?
No, so your only
nothing
options
works.
are to get a merchant account.
Okay.
Only option. And I wouldn't be so afraid of the extra cost on top of the candy. It's as simple as you saying you have to buy 5 pieces of candy instead of just one. And then we justify the cost of something based on the convenience, right? So if someone wants your product, they're going to pay for it. Doesn't matter where it is. A good example is the fudge company in Dockyard, right? So she ships fudge to the States all the time, but she has a minimum. And I can't remember exactly what it is, but people come to Bermuda, love that fudge, and say, I'm going to gift this to my friend, I want it for myself, and happily pay whatever it costs to ship it from here to wherever. So don't.
Same with her local too. So she was already doing the overseas, and then she said she needs to find a local solution just to have it. just to have it there, whether no matter how much or less it's used, she has it there as an option and a minimum.
But I'm wondering if she's losing, but the fact that she does have a spot in Dockyard, I know she gets income from that.
Right.
So,
I don't think any of us will be happy to take a loss in anything, right? So no matter what it is, you make it worth your time and your money and the product. At the end of the day, yes, you love your glass candy, let's say, but you don't love it so much you're willing to take a loss all the time.
Right.
exactly.
So you couldn't accept that. So you just have to figure out a way to work through that.
What stores are you selling your candy in? Or what stores are you planning to sell your candy in?
So I have people that reach out to me. I'm not going to be so open about it, but they're on Front Street. I have places in Dockyard.
Cool. Let's take Front Street store.
Okay.
Front Street store, are you selling it to them at a cheaper price that they're going to sell it at?
That's the conversation that I wanted to have because I was going to keep my base pay that I sell it for to people personally, and then they can do whatever with it afterwards. I didn't want to get into that. That's their.
Right. So what distributors do, they usually give it at a 15% discount as a bulk discount or bulk offer so that they can, the wholesale price, right? So that they can sell it at the same price as you so you guys are not competing against one another. So
That's exactly what I was doing. I was selling at a wholesale price after a certain amount that they.
perfect.
Yeah.
So then when you are making your pricing, when you come on to factor in all the costs, because you don't really have a monthly, you have a setup cost when it comes to your bank account and your setup cost when it comes to your payment gateway. But after that, maybe it's $100 to set up your merchant account, $100 to set up your payment gateway, and then it's a variable cost. So you're only going to pay on what you sell. So if people want the convenience, you can pass on that processing fee to the customer. As Airbnb does, you see the processing fee at the bottom, or PayPal has the processing fee separately. So as Carl said, you justify the cost. I think you should totally have that because if I want glass candy and I'm ordering overseas, whatever, I should still have that option to buy online. And yes, it's an investment. So maybe you might want to start just having an informative website, right, about your products, etc. Online payments coming soon. Sell through the product, get your cash flows, save up a little extra $100, get it all set up, and now you have a second stream of revenue, not just through the Front Street store, the Dockyard store.
Yeah.
I think that's a good approach. That way you can tackle them all.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Wahida Zarif. I have a question for anyone on the panel. Government has recently begun accepting cryptocurrency for bill payments. I believe it's called stable coin or Stablefoot or something like that. Do any of your businesses accept cryptocurrencies yet?
That is a great question. And Colin and myself both, I don't know if anyone else here was there, but we both sat through Tech Week and with a focus on cryptocurrency and BTC, which is a stable coin, which is backed by real currency. So the conversation's there. We don't currently accept any crypto coin or BTC at the moment, or stable coin, only because there's not that many people that, the cost benefit's not there, right? So it's going to cost us to integrate that, and maybe 2 people might use it. Obviously that's going to grow. It's one of these things, it's like the forefront. That's also the Wild West of currency, but not yet. Yeah, not yet for us.
Okay, because if you're interested in growing your business outside of Bermuda, a lot of people are using that method of payment because it eliminates the banks.
Totally agree.
Go ahead, Colin, if you want to add something or no.
Yeah, it's a very complex topic, but yes, Sargasso has had conversations like Drop It with Vend and Circle, which Circle is the first digital asset currency that is accepted by the government with the fintech initiatives. So we're hoping that in 2021 that you will be able to use a Sargasso coin or a coin of the like on our platform. And we, me personally, and I think Carl and I, we've been going through this journey together. On separate ends of the field, but through everything. And so we would like to be the companies as digital apps and platforms to integrate this foreign idea of cryptocurrencies and how, yes, they have a lot of benefits, but it all comes at a cost. So some people think, oh, there is no cost, but there is a cost. It's just where does the cost come into, right? Because if you ever have to export that money into real money, or the lack of term,
Tangible, hard cash.
hard cash, and there's another term I'm slipping right now. Fiat, thank you, Erika. So into fiat currency, there's a cost when you come to export that money. So, but if you use it in the realm of that digital space or hub, then there is no cost. So there's pros and cons, and I think we could be some of those first platforms that we can allow the common day user to have that, because unless you have a space to go and spend it,
Yeah. And I just add that I think that is also a mindset and a culture shift, right? So I think we're moving in that direction. We have to, but I think we all have to move in that direction, right? We all have to can I pay my light bill? Can I pay my Belco bill with some crypto, right? So I think there's some things that need to happen nationally to make people feel comfortable with that idea, because the rest of the world is doing it. So that you're thinking that way now, I think is great, because that's what we're talking about here today, is how can you be on the cutting edge? How can you be on the forefront and be prepared when that does happen?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for personal use, it's wonderful to have cryptocurrency, but from a business sense in Bermuda, again, it's similar to the PayPal scenario. I could take money in, but what can I do with it once it's in my account? And like Jamila said, you want that cash in hand for whatever reason. So you have to be smart about these things and think about, okay, I want to prepare for that, and I want to make sure that I'm able to accommodate that in the future. But is it going to be for my business, or am I going to do it from a personal level? Which a lot of people in Bermuda I know had that from a personal level. The other day, a guy came to me. He was like, "Oh, if you had your book for sale via Bitcoin, I would have bought one." I'm like, "But you got cash." So I'm not understanding.
I think what it comes down to is when we can pay our bills with crypto, we'll take yours.
I have one more question here.
I just want to make a comment. Even before we get to the cryptocurrency stage, there are apps that are available in the United States. And I was in Atlanta a couple of months ago, and we went to the ice cream truck. And my sister came back. She said, "Do you have $5?" I said, "Why?" "Because they don't accept in cash." Because they asked her, did she have Cash App? So it's just a simple app where you just transfer your money. And part of my ignorance, is that a form of cryptocurrency, Cash App? It's a digital platform, so we're not even there yet. And of course, again, there's probably some hesitations with the bank, because everybody uses Cash App. There are Venmo, Cash App, all of that's available in the United States. And I think it's time we do get on board with just that simple concept.
I agree. I just had that conversation this morning at the coffee shop, because we were waiting in line just to pay while other people were trying to order, and we were like, if they had Apple Pay, you could have just tapped and go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do have a little bit of catching up to do from a financial perspective, and hopefully the banks are working on that.
You listening, Flo?
It's more not the banks. It's more about the Caribbean regulation in which the jurisdiction that we work in, and it's really that, and it's bigger than just Bermuda.
I have a question here.
Good evening. My name is Monique Stevens. I have, so Isha Ness is my designer name. I have started for a couple years now, and based on personal reasons, I kind of not done the sewing part of it aspect. So I'm trying to transition into the merchant aspect of it. I did a product about 2 years ago that sold really well, and I pretty much did cash-to-hand transactions. This time around, I actually want to go about doing a website, or I have some stuff coming about, so I've actually for the first time marketed or gotten some pictures done, and I understand that pictures sell so many, or it helps so much. So instead of going through what I've done before, I want to go through a website. So my question to Jennifer is, as you actually sell a product, how do you go about after someone makes a purchase online in regards to delivery and pickup? Because that's actually the part that I don't want to be like, I don't want to be responsible, or just driving around and, you know, it's just so freelance when it comes to people calling and saying, okay, I want your product, and making that exchange. I just want it to be a lot more orderly, I guess. And I'm interested in like reviews and stuff like that, so that my customers, I can hear what they have to say about my product, how I can improve and stuff like that, which I think is available on a website.
Okay, well, this is all new to me. I'm trying to get proper steps put in place, so when a customer does place their order online and completes it, then I get the acknowledgement of it. I send them an email out to say it's been received, and somebody, if they want it delivered, somebody will call them shortly to get either the instructions, or if they want to pick it up. I'm located at home, but I have a few locations because of my inventory is so vast. I have a lot of big products as well. I've got different locations where I do have my products. So the website works for me, and it gives me a chance just to compile the order, and especially if it's got to be delivered. So it's just about keeping the communication open right now with customers. They're happy to get that phone call to say, you know, we've received your order online, and, you know, we understand you want it delivered. Where do you want it delivered to? They'll normally put their address on that, but we just want to clarify it more. And we put the order together, and it's just delivering, giving them a time frame as to what time we'll be there, and it seems to work so far. Yeah.
I would say that I'll give you a chance to plug yourself.
Okay, so immediately what I wanted to say is, for anyone, when building a website and putting products on it is great. It still has to be sexy, right? It still has to be sexy. I'll say that again because that's like the biggest thing. Your products can just be sitting there, but you still have to sell it, and you're not there to sell it, right? So, but what this means is you have to stay in constant contact with your customer, or someone who just might have been interested and signed up, or, you know, just anything. Someone who got referred by a friend. So there's all these like little things in the background that just change the probability of if that person is going to actually turn over and become your customer. Are you going to convert them from just a click to a purchase? And that's like the deeper but the realist side of a website, right? I could have 30,000 clicks in a few days. Who cares, right? That's vanity metrics is what they call it. It doesn't really matter. It looks cool, it sounds cool, but who bought stuff? And one thing that we had to realize was, okay, we have this great product, we deliver, whatever the case, but just because we came out yesterday and said we launched, we got this great opportunity, you're not going to buy until you're ready, right? It doesn't matter how excited I am that you came out. I'm not going to come and buy my new bathing suit if it's winter. So you just have to make sure that you stay in that person's mind, subconscious, whatever, in their inbox, in their junk mail, whatever. As long as they know when that time comes, I know where to go, and I know how to get there easiest.
There's like consistency of content.
Right. Like when you have a website as well, it's just as important to keep up with social media, right? Mm-hmm. Colin does very well with his social media. Props to that. And it's just a matter of staying consistent, right? You have to always be there. Hello, hey, there they are again. Even if it's not to us like the best thing to put on social media, you just want to get stuff out there, right? Be seen, get your product seen, recognized.
It's like riding past that billboard every day, where like at least a billboard. Colin's you're a lot more than that. You do. He does a lot better on social media, but we do have that presence. Yeah.
So I just wanted to, hi guys, I'm Cora Wells. I just wanted to talk on two things, kind of going back to web development and some of the cost. And I think one piece that is really important based on sort of the whole fintech movement that government's going down is making sure that when you develop your website, or whoever develops it for you, uses a digital certificate. So not just, and I think the banks are going to require you to use a digital certificate. So that's number one, and that comes with a cost. It's usually about, I think you can get them from GoDaddy for about $100. Quo Vadis also locally provides them, and sometimes you can negotiate with Quo Vadis. Being a small business, they're sometimes really nice. But then not just the digital cert for $100, you also should consider security on your website or security on your app. Because what we've noticed over the past sort of 2 years is Bermuda has become a target. Like we have this target on our back where people are trying to hack our websites, right? And trying to sort of get in the back end and maybe get your credit card details or any sort of details. So make sure either whoever's developing your website or if you're using Wix or Weebly or whatever, that there's additional security added just because that's what we're seeing happening in Bermuda. So you have to make sure that you keep up to date on like your security patches and things like that. So that's just one comment. Just my second comment, I wanted to give you guys an option between the Wix, Weebly, and Shopify, which are hosted development, like websites, right? All of your content that you spend many hours putting on those hosted websites, you can't, when you're ready to move to the next level, you can't back that site up and just drop it into your own hosting environment. So what you can do is you can probably do a download maybe of the images or maybe a download of some of the content by maybe copy and pasting. You hear my maybe because it just depends. So there's another option that I kind of want you guys to think about, which is still fairly inexpensive. Like go to, there's a site that's like a template monster, and you can buy a pre-built template for maybe like $100, and it gives you like tutorials of just how to, buy hosting from GoDaddy and upload the template and then add your content. And it's very basic, but at least that's your website. And when you're ready to move to the next level and speak to a web developer, you haven't lost all that time and effort as a new startup company, that all that time and effort that you've put in when you're ready to move to that next step. So there's a couple of those sort of template built websites that you can use and get some hosting, and it's still only that like $100 like Girl Boss said and that sort of thing, but it's a little bit sort of better as you learn to, as you grow with your company. That's all.
Thanks for that. One last one, young lady in the green right here. Oh, we have another one.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is
evening.
Dayla Burgess, and I have questions for, I believe it's going to be Miss Carla and Miss Tori, in regards to building a online presence, tips on building an online presence if you're essentially unknown or unheard of, and how that online presence, if it's done correctly, can turn into clicks. Because my business idea is actually selling a service, not so much a product like Miss Carla had mentioned. So if you guys could just offer, I know I'm kind of probably jumping ahead, but if you could offer any insight in regards to how to build a good online presence, but also keep parts of your personal life offline where it's all about your business and not so much about you.
What service, if I can ask?
So it's going to be a form of healthcare service. I'll just say it like that. Yeah.
I think when it comes to providing a service, no matter what it is, people want a service from people that they know, that they trust, that they feel that they connect with. And even though it's a product, I'll use Starbucks as an example. Starbucks delivers a service. It is a whole experience that you get when you go to Starbucks. You feel warm, you feel fuzzy, you're excited. Even if the coffee is like overpriced, who cares? Because you're getting that warm and fuzzy feeling. So I think when it comes specifically to services, especially if you're going to be offering a premium service, something that's maybe like, I don't know your price points, but if it's like 500 plus, people need to like you. So the thing that I can say with that is when you establish a presence online, the internet is filled with so much, buy this, buy that, listen to me, pay attention. The best advice I can give you is to be yourself. I know it sounds really, really cliche, but it's how I got to be here today. I feel like it's how Carla got to be where she is today. Be yourself while still educating people. When it comes to a service, the best advice I can also give is to convey the value. No one wants to buy my service, buy my service, buy my service. What is your healthcare service going to do for the other person? Is it saving them time? Is it saving them energy? Is it giving life to them? Like, what exactly does your service do? If you are your most authentic self and you focus on the value of your product, the presence and building it up will come. On top of like posting that, I didn't even say that, but posting it on somewhere. But do all of that and you should be well on your way to establishing a presence.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a necessary evil, social media, right? I absolutely do not like it, I'm not gonna lie. But I have to be on it every single day, especially when you're trying to get your message out there. So like Tori said, if you have a message, you have to educate people, give them information, because that's what they want from you. Recently I attended a seminar, was taught by Carla Harris, and she said, you have to give 4 things before you ask for that one, right? So how do you do that? You post every day your words. So one thing I've noticed is that people value my words more than my pictures, which is different on your personal page, right? People like the pictures on your personal page of your boo and whatnot, blah, blah. But when you're coming to a service, they really value your words and your knowledge. So when I started posting more of my words, that was getting traction and people started to trust what you were saying and started to believe you and looked at you as an expert and a resource in whatever it is that you're providing. Because what you want is that interaction with your followers, right? So you have to respond to your followers, as daunting, as it can be, but you have to create that connection. They want a friend. It's social media. We have to be social, right? So you have to remember that when you're posting and when you're putting yourself out there, provide 4 things before you ask for one. What can you give that is free, i.e. either an information pack, right? Or gives resources that you use pertaining to health. So, I don't know, you may want to recommend a dental plan, I don't know, I'm just thinking of something. Or if it's female products, recommend female products for whatever reason, right? Be an expert in that area. I'm getting feedback. Be an expert in that area by providing 4 and then do that one ask. And that one ask will be your paid product, right? So whether you provide an ebook or you do coaching or whatever service it is, then you don't feel so bad asking for that because you know what? You have provided this at least 4 things free, and then you have that connection with people, and that's how you build up your email list and these sorts of things, right? When you're providing this free ebooks or click here to get my top 10 health advice or my top 10 apps that you can use for X, Y, and Z, right? And that's how you start to collect your email addresses, you start to collect that connection, you start to create that connection, and people start to trust you. That goes with your posting on social media via whatever source you use, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.
And would you say your podcast helped you do that? Because I know you said you started with that kind of present to the online platform who you were and what it is that, giving those 4 things to ask for one.
Yeah, so technically, podcast is providing free information, right? On a weekly basis. Well, depending how you use. So mine's a weekly basis. So if I'm interviewing people on a weekly basis, they're providing information to people who are listening, then you become a source where people trust you. And ironically, what starts to happen, people start to send you things and they start to tag you in different posts because they recognize you as a spokesperson for that topic based on what you're providing on your social media. And another thing is with social media, which Bermuda has to kind of catch up a little bit, is just the aesthetic look of your Instagram page. Like, sometimes I look at some people's pages, I'm like, I don't even know what's going on here, right? But, if you have a product, like my personal page is completely different. But for my podcasting page, I have a color code. If you go in there, you will see it's blush pink, right? So that's my color code. It's threaded throughout the whole Instagram page. Tori, you have something similar where it's clean, right? I noticed that yours is clean. You have like you have like quotes in the middle and pictures on one side or something like that. So, you would start to create a look and people will start to get used to that look. So think of that. Think of what your color code is going to be, what your post is going to look like, what the format's going to be. People's going to get used to seeing that. And then be present, because believe it or not, when you stop being present, people's going to start wondering what happened. That happened to me, and I was quite surprised because I was just tired. I'm like, I'm not even doing a podcast this week, right? So people were like, when are you going to put out another podcast? Like, when's the next episode? When's the next episode? And I said, wow, people are really listening and tuned in and watching what you're doing because they're looking for that information. So remember, you are the one that's the expert in the field that you're talking about, and own that, right? And you are the one that has the information that people need, own it, and then start to provide it.
Thank you. Wow.
Sure. And then, Carl, you want to?
Quickly wanted to add also, when it does come to social media, and this applies to everybody, you can pace yourself. Like, you don't always have to do every single platform, because then it could just be overwhelming. Like you have to tweet, you have to post on Facebook, you have to, LinkedIn is a thing, right? So depending on what you're doing, pick a platform, master it, and then move on to the next one. I don't know exactly what you're doing, but I will plug LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn a lot, love it. If you're looking to connect with professional people, LinkedIn is where it's at, okay? So, just think of which platform is gonna make the most sense and try to really be active, because you can't be active on all 5 of the top ones all the time. You're gonna lose your mind. So try to figure out what makes the most sense for my business and where is my target audience at as well.
Go ahead, Carl.
And my quick comment is just in relation to you're guilty by association, right? So people might not know you, but your product might go well with someone else's who is known well. So immediately you have people have some sort of perception of you based on who you're hanging out with or who you are online with or who you sell your product through. And I think that's probably the quickest way because they've already done the years of work, right? You just hop in and take a picture, or not literally, or just they write a comment about your new product on their site or what have you. And you'll be very surprised by how many people are like, okay, if he was to work with her, then I'll buy it, that sort of thing.
I think a couple of things that you guys said that I think is really important is the authenticity and to be present, right? Because I think sometimes with social media, it's like, it can be overwhelming, but that is the way it is, right? That's how it is. And if you are selling products, if you're selling services, you have to be present. You have to be willing to engage with your potential consumer. And I know, like for some, they're like, I want to keep my personal and private separate. But if you're thinking about your product or your brand is a representation of you, right? And so even though you might have a separate profile, I think what you said is cool. So, and that it could be a double-edged sword. So if you're associating with good people, then it's good. But if you're associating with someone else, then again, that can impact the ability for your client to trust you, right? And that's what you want, because at the end of the day, you, not being present, have to convince somebody to go in their wallet, pull out their credit card, and put it into the internet to some place. We don't know where it's going, right? So I think that is going to be really, really key, and you have to work towards building that up, right? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. I know you said, okay. All right. So we spent a lot of time on that, but I think we got a lot of questions out from some of the other topics as well. But I want to go back to the types of software, because it sounds like a lot, and I feel like it can be overwhelming for some, especially if this is going to be their first time or first foray into using technology in online business. So what do you guys use to help manage that process, whether it's social media? What tools can you use to help people to kind of navigate this whole online process?
To work it?
Yeah, or just to make it easier, right? You have to post, you have to engage with your clients. So what are you using to help make that easier for you? Because you also got to do the work too, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say there as well on social media. And as I say, if you look at our social media, we're I guess a billboard is a good way to describe us. You know, we're a very consistent, you know, we post our colors, our theme, and all that kind of stuff, but not super engaging with that. But there's other methods as well. We do surveys, we interact on phone and email a lot. What other methods do we use?
I would say, like, so the greatest thing about technology is automation, right? I don't want to have to send a message to you. I don't want to have to send you my new products, right? Because it takes a lot of time to put them on. And the greatest thing about a website or an application is the automation. So if you were shopping on our site and you left items in the cart for over an hour, you're going to get an email that says, hey, you forgot this, right? And I didn't send it. It's automated. So there's plugins, right? The plugins, are, to me, were the coolest thing, because everything you ever thought you had to get built, it's already been built by a company that spends $1 million a month on building cool stuff. And all you have to do is maybe pay $49 for the year, and you right, and they do add up. I mean, I find new plugins all the time, but they're there, and you know, you can search. So we have a WooCommerce, a WordPress WooCommerce site. It's very scalable. It's I wouldn't say it's the best place to start, but if you have, you know, if you have plans to really build your idea and have all these different functions and basically unlimited amounts of things you can do, WordPress and WooCommerce is great. But the plugin library is amazing, right? I just do a little research on Google, say like, how can I don't know, send this automatic message if this happens, and then boom, plugins come up, you read the reviews, you search the plugin, you might download it and try it. But yeah, plugins, just remember plugins.
Literally plugins. Like I too have a WordPress website, and I think we talked about Weebly and Wix, but WordPress is great. WordPress basically is the same thing as Weebly. Well, no, it's not the same thing. WordPress allows you to build a website. Now, it's not like coding. It's not that level of building, but it allows you to completely build it. So you can sell things, you can have a plugin that allows a membership or subscription service, right? You can have affiliates for your business. So that's another form of marketing where people are going out and selling your product, getting a commission. WordPress can do anything that you want. So in terms of what tools I use a WordPress website. On both of my websites, I bought 2 different WordPress themes, which was an investment, about $100. I use a business management tool for people who are selling a service, sometimes a product. You need the automation factor. Since I sell a service, I use a platform called Dubsado, which basically takes away everything from somebody's interested on my website and they submit their information to an automatic email is sent to them. I didn't send it, Dubsado sent it. They want to set up an appointment with me. It also sends that. It sends them their invoice when they're ready to actually book something. It sends them their contract. It sends reminder emails and so on and so forth. So depending on what exactly you are doing, you might need a business management tool or a CRM. CRMs are also really amazing. It's similar to a CRM, but it does a little bit more. But CRMs are also amazing. It's a client relationship management. They know what I'm talking about. It's basically a hub for all of your clients because, you know, the biggest thing that a lot of people think when they go into business is, I just need like 1 customer, but you might have had to go through 50 people before you got your first customer. So you need to start collecting people's information. So a CRM is also really great. And then I have an email marketing tool, which kind of doubles as a CRM to a certain extent. But you want to be able to capture people's information. Like I said, not everyone is going to buy on your website, but you still need to be able to have a hub of, these are potential customers. These are people who are interested. These are people who came to my website. They want a little bit more information, but they're not ready to buy yet. So I would say what I really have is email marketing, website, business management tool. Oh, a social media schedule. I do have that too. Hootsuite is a great free one. Yeah. I personally don't use that anymore. I use Tailwind because I'm on Pinterest a lot. But Tailwind is awesome. You can also pre-schedule all of your Instagram posts. Since Instagram is like the trendy place to be, you can schedule unlimitedly unlimitedly. Is that a? It auto posts. So it's a preferred Instagram partner. So it can completely auto post. So you can upload in bulk a whole bunch of photos. So you have 30 photos for 30 days. You put it in Tailwind, and then you just type out your captions. It can save your hashtags. It shows you which hashtags are good. Like it'll show you this is green, meaning it's good. It'll show you red, it's too much, like it's not good for you to use. And then you can save like your 30 hashtags, whatever, auto post, and you're good to go. Automation is key, people.
Yes.
Game changer.
Another good app that I use for Instagram is an app called When to Post. And it basically follows your data and when's the best time for you to post for your Instagram page. So it gives you Monday to Sunday, the best time each day for you to post where you get the most traction if you're interested in things like that.
Great. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the ability to create multiple revenue streams online. So you have products, yes, but what else can you do? And how is being online allowing you to do that?
So when we created Dropit.bm, our website, we knew that we wanted to deliver groceries. And then it came from an uncomfortable stage, didn't it, of, what was it? It just took, everything takes a little bit longer than expected, especially for impatient people like us. And we'd gotten to so many months in, and we're like, oh, we need some money. And then even when we launched, it was the soft launch, wasn't it? And still, like, everything's getting a little tighter and a little tighter. And then we realized, I mean, we did interviews like 2 months before we was even ready. So we had these pool of drivers, and we had these people kind of ready and raring to go, which are still with us to this day. They're incredible. And we were like, what? We need to utilize these people. And then all of a sudden, we realized that we were getting people to the site, and we have these drivers. We're still perfecting certain things in the store, which really we should have actually launched well earlier than we did, but us being perfectionists and always wanting to get to a certain level and a certain point. But, you know, you got to go through the trenches, and that's what we did. But until, when it got to the point where we're like, right, let's utilize what we have, we decided to come up with the other side of our business, which is get something delivered. So anybody can go online to our Drop It page, and on one side it says shop for groceries. The other side says get something delivered. And this started well before groceries. You know, we already had everything in place, and that allowed us to do that. We'd already had a site. Our developer was on board. He was building that as, you know, as soon as we mentioned it. Then all of a sudden we have this other side of the business, which happened by a complete mistake. And even now, we're meeting with all these different people and different businesses that want to deliver, and it can happen because we already have that platform. It's just a case of plugging it in.
So you're leveraging that existing.
Yeah.
Right. And you make sure you share your idea, because you never know what someone else's perception of your business is, right? So someone may have come to us and said, yeah, you guys do this, right? And we're like, maybe. Right? And then you know, us being entrepreneurs, you think, okay, well, how can I make that happen? And quick little Google research, okay, maybe $1,500 later, we can do that, right? You tell them you can do it, and then figure out how to make it happen. And well, that's the type of person I am.
Very good at that. Just tell you the dream and then go away, and you're like, ugh.
But we'll make it happen. But anyhow, share the idea, and definitely just share it so that you can look at your own idea from different people's perspectives, because you never know what's hidden and where you can make that extra bit of money, or that little bit of extra might actually turn out to be the heart of the business, and everything what you thought it would be ends up being just a little fluff around the edges.
So from a podcasting stand, you have to think of different ways to create revenue. And I always relate it to like a radio station or television station. It's through advertisement, right? So you have to get so many listeners. So that's the journey that I'm on right now, where I'm building up my listeners, so eventually I will be able to reach out to different businesses to see if they would like to advertise on my website, maybe like Sargosa app or Drop It or somebody like that. So that's one way for podcasting. So that's the journey that I'm on. But what I was able to do sooner than that is to be, again, create a community, be a resource. And that's with the summit that I'm doing. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't my intention when I started the podcast, but once I attended a summit a few months ago and I just loved the community. It was really the community more than anything that it created. I was like, yes, this is what I would love to build, is a community and bring what I've done with my book and everything else, and how can I bring this together so people can connect? And that's how the virtual summit came about. Now, when I got my coach, she was like, you do realize that you can monetize over this as well. And I was like, okay, let's try it out. So that's where the monetization came with the summit. Now, with that, with my book, which just does what it does in the background, it sells through Amazon. So they cut you a check every month or what have you. But with the book, with the summit, with the podcast, I now also have T-shirts. So that's just another avenue that you can use to grow your business and just have another stream of income. Now, the T-shirt thing, again, I told these guys the other day, I got a coach for everything. So I got a coach pertaining to my T-shirt store because with your internet presence, remember, Bermuda is not just your market, right? You have to think outside of outside your local community. While you can address your local community, how can you also connect to the globe, right? How can you do that? And there are different ways that you can do that through merchandise that connects with your brand, right? So your brand becomes your staple that creates revenue for you. Think of ways to do that. You could get T-shirts. You could have a funny slogan. Put it on a T-shirt. Put it on a mug. People are always into those sorts of things. I saw a fellow author the other day. She's created a journal to go with her book. And she just used her art to create the journal. There are different ways that you can be creative and innovative about branding yourself and expanding your brand beyond the service or the one product that you have. You want to then become a brand, and what does your brand look like? How do people recognize your brand and connect to you? Another way they want to connect to you. And then they start to sell your brand for you, because essentially that's the point where you want to get to, is that people are selling your brand and you're just making money in your sleep. Right? So you got to think of different ways for that to happen.
Yes, making money in your sleep, yes. In terms of making money in your sleep, because I think that's, we're all business owners, but outside of that, being able to make money while not actively doing it is the goal. And that's where we get into passive income. So passive income, for those of you who don't know, is income streams that you set up. And then once you set it up, it continues to make money for you. For example, an ebook, an Amazon book that is shipped out through a fulfillment center, digital products, downloads, courses, memberships, all these things are typically passive income streams, depending on what you set them up with. And I wanted to just harp on passive income, because what a lot of people, I feel like, do when they start a business, they're like, okay, I'm gonna deliver, and then I'm gonna own the restaurant, and then I'm gonna also do everything else. And you don't have to always look at your income streams as active. You don't have to always be doing it. You can have different passive income streams coming into your business. Affiliate marketing is another great one. If everybody in here has a website, you can all sign up to be an affiliate marketer. There's so many different ways to divert ads on websites. People pay a pretty penny to have ads on your website, depending on how much traction you're getting. But there's a whole bunch of different passive income revenue streams that you can add to any business model, no matter what you're selling, what you're doing. Passive income. Did I mention passive income?
I just want to touch on the international thing just briefly. So one of our strategies was to, in the grocery delivery side of the business, was to reach tourists. And how do you reach a tourist or an Airbnb, let's say, guest that wanted to order their groceries? More than likely, they're going to be looking for it before they get here, right? So we ran a few Google AdWords ads in places that had one-way flights to Bermuda, so Washington, D.C., New York, right? We're just targeting these ads in those central areas and also around the airports, right? Because you can do that. Digitally, you can do that, right? I chose a 10-mile perimeter around the airport and set it and paid for it, and that was it. But what happened was interesting. We started getting a lot of messages through our online chat, which is a plugin, of people saying, hey, do you ship to America? Or and I had some ads running in London as well at the airport, in the airport area, and hey, do you ship here? And I'm thinking, what? Like, it brought to our attention that, like, okay, if we did have a product that was sellable and shippable like that, that wasn't perishable, there's actual people that want to buy it. You just got to get it in front of them, right? Choose the right audience, and that just opened my eyes up to, like, oh wow, this could be really cool if you have your glass candy, right? It could be an international product very easily. You just pay a few dollars, push it somewhere where you think makes sense, and see what happens.
People are already thinking, like from Amazon, you don't really care where your product is coming from. Half the time I have no idea. So it's such an easy question now. Like, we get often calls, don't we? Are you in Canada or do you live there? It's just a normal thing for them.
Think about it. I mean, when you guys buy stuff at Amazon, do you know where it's coming from?
That's what I'm saying.
No.
I have no idea.
Sometimes, in most cases, it's coming all the way from China. All the way. And then it ends up in Bermuda.
That's the one not on Prime.
Exactly.
I've done that many times.
But that's the beauty of the internet. And so I really want you to start thinking that way. When you're thinking about delivering a product or service, think about how it can be scaled. If you're selling your glass candy locally, yes, we're familiar with it, but what can you do to create opportunity to scale it outside of Bermuda? What's going to be needed in order for you to be able to do that and still make a profit? Perhaps it's a fulfillment center. Perhaps you need to be producing it somewhere in the States, somewhere that will allow you to be able to charge favorable shipping rates and things like that. So those are the things that you want to start taking into consideration if you have a product that you would like to scale. And since we're talking about scaling, how important was that to you when you decided to start your business? Being able to scale outside of Bermuda.
So scale is, I think, the first thing, right? You get your idea, and you think, okay, well, I guess maybe the initial idea for us was a local idea, right? It was not a small operation, but we wanted to run a big company. End of story. So the scale was always there subconsciously, but you have to start small, right? And that is the hardest thing for me, and I think maybe for a lot of us, is that, yeah, we have to start small. We can't start big, and why not? Yeah, right? Like, why not? I got people that want to buy this stuff. Why not? So the idea is going to morph, right? It's going to definitely change, and you just have to be willing to change with it, and the scale will come. We have big plans, and the plans change all the time. But you just have to be able to see it, right? It's all about perception. You think the market is big in Bermuda for your product, but how do you know Bermuda's market is great if you don't know any other market? You can't compare it to somewhere else. So I think in order to really look at your business and to say you want to scale it, you have to have something to compare it to. So your perception is everything, right? So just open your mind, try to build the biggest dream you can, and it's gonna fall short. But short might be great too, that's all.
I'll ask Jen. I want to hear from you because I know, you start as a brick and mortar store. I'm sure you expected you were going to do that and then retire and then be fine. But now, all of a sudden, you have Animal and Garden House online. So have you given any thought to what scaling that business model will look like for you?
That I haven't thought of just yet. Yeah. I am still entering products. So it's just like, I'm just learning from everyone here, and it's just like you can see, you've got a lot more opportunities out there than what you ever dreamed of, and it's the universe is yours.
Well, in my mind, I'm like, yes, you can, because you're bringing the product in to sell to somebody here, and like we said, nobody knows where they're ordering it from, so what if you just don't bring it in and you just fulfill it, right? So, plug. We'll work on that later.
You may think right now, okay, I don't know how I'm going to scale, I'm just starting out, but you have expertise just being in the retail business, starting from retail and moving into online presence. So That is an ebook right there. That is 5 sessions, online sessions with a course, and you can charge $50 for that session per person, even more, depending, how much you put into it. See, these are the type of things that, one of the questions that were out there was, how do you see transformation? How do you see the internet transforming? In the market that I'm in, and what I've been studying, is that e-courses and e-books can be very lucrative, okay? Because your audience is Lord knows where. And the more that you push, of course, when you become more comfortable with social media, et cetera, and getting it out there, you don't care who buys your product. You don't care where they're located. You just want to make sure that you get the clients and that you get your product bought, meaning the e-services, the e-books, the e-courses. You have an expertise that many people here want to know about. How did you move from a brick and mortar into an online service? Well, let me tell you, and I'm going to charge you $50 to tell you. You know what I mean? So it's these sorts of, anybody who is doing that, anytime you transition from one thing to another, or you basically utilize your skill sets and have transferable skill sets, people want to know, how did you do that? How were you able to do that? How were you able to start your podcast from 0 listeners from Bermuda and now have a global presence and have 3,000 downloads? How are you able to do that? People are always looking to move from one area to another, especially when it comes to business. They want to scale, they want to branch out, they may want to shut down the brick and mortar and go online. How can you do that? I mean, it does require time for you to put together a course, but again, it's one of those passive incomes that Tori was talking about. Once you have it out there, it's always there, and people can practice it at any given time. Depending how you do, you can either do it live, and then you can record that, and then sell that live course moving forward.
See? Tori, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, for you, I feel like in terms of scalability and who your actual customer is, I mean, it's not defined by any place, right?
No, and I think that's what, moving to the internet is, especially speaking to the, we call it the infopreneur, right? The topic today is the netpreneur is the nextpreneur, but the currentpreneur is the infopreneur. We are in the information generation or time period where building these digital products, right? And when I say digital products, these are not things that exist tangibly. It's not this book. It is just my information from my head, my knowledge, my expertise going into a course, an ebook, going into webinars and live streams. That's really where we're going. And to your point of there's no limits, there isn't, because now we're on the internet. The only limits you have, I guess, are within your own respective industry, and there's also like other competition and stuff like that. But long story short, you just open up your entire expertise. I actually do know somebody who has a how to start your fashion boutique course that sells for $6.99, like wow. $699, not $6, because I know what you were thinking. $699 to start a fashion boutique. Or people teach about how to start Amazon fulfillment businesses and then make $10,000 in their sleep. It's real. And all that these people are doing is they're saying, this is the knowledge that I have. I built a 6-figure business. These are the steps that I took and how I did it. Now pay me $1,000 for this crash course with, of course, like speaking to them and stuff like that. So you can go way beyond Bermuda. But I think specifically talking to you and for anyone else who is brick and mortar, transitioning to internet, you actually have an advantage to stick local, because a lot of people here, you being one of the brick and mortars now to transition to digital, when you understand that and know it, there's going to be people locally who are brick and mortars who want to know, okay, I need to do this. How do I do it? So you can actually start local.
There's a question.
I just want to thank you for hosting this. to be totally honest, just sitting here, I'm just bubbling in the inside because I'm like, I have so many ideas that I want to just put out there, and you all are just really giving the information. So on top of being a designer, I feel in that aspect of like, sometimes the crash courses that you can go through, like just putting it out there, you never know who's also going through that experience. So that's something else that I actually want to put out there, because the career that I have and the things that I go through, so many people ask me, Mo, how do you do it? And so many things that I do, some people are like, you should really put it out there. So blogging is another thing that I've been interested in, to kind of just pull everything together of the things that I'm doing, putting together like documents, spreadsheets of how I deal with my children and stuff like that, to put it out there that I can possibly make income off of. So this information is great. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to contain it all.
I just want to quickly go back to when you're looking for a machinist, and even though I don't know anybody personally, I would ask the panel to, how do you find who you need to get what you need to get done? So what resources do you use, or tools that do you use to try to find someone? How is she going to find her machinist?
I was just going to, since you were talking about putting your courses, I was also going to say, yes, your personal brand is amazing. Yes, your website is amazing. But you can put your courses and information onto sites that are centered around people looking for something, right? So I think it's Udemy. Udemy is amazing. They have like $10 courses for anyone who's interested in a respective thing. But for UDEMY, it's a little weird, but there's like everything from web design to fashion design to social media marketing. So you can upload your courses onto larger sites like that already have hundreds of thousands of people looking for something. So Udemy is something that I use to find what I'm looking for in terms of people. I mean, Fiverr on occasion. But hashtags are great as well. I go through hashtags through Instagram specifically, possibly Twitter or LinkedIn as well, to find, I'm looking for a business coach, I'm looking for graphic designer. And trust me, if you're looking to hire somebody or hire something that you need, put it out there. I guarantee people will say, hey, because they want money. Like, yeah.
All right, it looks like we're coming to a close. I have like a gajillion million more questions. But I'd like you guys to leave with any final words of inspiration to those sitting here, considering it, we're on the fence, not so sure, and then we'll go down the line and then we'll bring it to a close. Go ahead. She has to start. Oh.
I would say go for it. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Rather start somewhere and be getting all that feedback than wait for a moment to start and then expect it to be a certain level. If you start a little bit, I don't know, how do you say it? Not starting, like, not lowering your standards. Your standards will never change. You know, if you've got high standards, you have a high standards. But you could always make the best of something that is not your standards, if that makes sense. I once worked in a spa on a cruise ship, and we was on like not one of the most beautiful ones at the time. And I remember the trainers always used to come in and say, okay, you know, we all know that your spa is not the best, but we know that you can be the best. And I guess that's what I always live by.
Thank you.
And I would say surround yourself, like tonight, with people that are like-minded or on the same journey, and also those people that are below and above where you are at the time. Because it just takes one conversation, right? One connection after this could change the whole trajectory of everything you had planned. Or you know, it could make it 10 times easier or 10 times harder. You might find out the guy next to you is building the same idea, right? And then you decide, competition, or do we collaborate? And also, don't, this is gonna sound weird because everyone's here for research, but don't die within the research of your idea, right? That's very easy. Like, we both dive into things without really reading the instructions and then recover. And that helped in this situation, especially within this whole e-commerce thing in Bermuda, where there's no guides, right? incorporating yourself. There's no guide. You just got to pay someone to do it. But just try to do it as blindly as possible. Take a calculated risk and go for it, because there's a lot of things that will seem like, oh, got to wait till that's done and this is ready and I'm not there yet or whatever. But when you're in it, you'll figure out a way to make it work, and your idea will change.
Okay. To me, it's if you've got that dream, and don't lose the reality of it, and just go for it. You don't have anything to lose, and just make that dream happen.
I mean, I feel like everyone's saying go for it, but it's so true. The calculated risk, yes. Truth be told, when I went for it, I was actually making a calculated timeline. I prematurely leaped. It wasn't intentionally, but I got to my point, and I think that a lot of people, there is no perfect time to start a business. There's never a convenient time, whether it's I'm in school and I don't have the money, I'm a parent to a newborn. There's never a good time. So you just have to start, and you'll know, like you will feel like, you know what, I'm uncomfortable, this is scary. That's when you need to jump. I promise. It feels very uncomfortable and unsettling, and like you didn't anticipate that to be your moment, but that's your moment, and you need to go for it.
There's 2 points that I want to leave with you guys. One is money is just the measurement of how well we serve. So the better question is, well, how can we serve better? Because so many people get focused on the money. And yeah, you need the money to make things happen, but if you focus on the customer experience and the relationship that you build, that's what it's all about. It doesn't matter if you're Carla George and you inspire people's lives to change, or you're like Tori and you can help people brand, or any of the services that you guys provide. But at the end of the day, it's about those relationships, right? It's all about the relationships you build with those people, and that's real. That's genuine. Because a lot of people get so focused on the money. Where's my money on this and that? How do I maximize my profit? And I think that's a mindset in Bermuda that us as the entrepreneurs in the room will have to change. Instead of how can we make so much, maximize that profit off of selling that one time, versus how do I create a relationship with that customer over a 5-year course, and the value of that customer. So that customer for us isn't, that the customer orders 5 pizzas and we deliver that. No, it's how do I build a relationship, because that customer is my customer for 5 years. They're not a $50 customer. They're actually a $50,000 customer. And secondly, the point I want to leave is the fact of hard work. Leading up to the launch, or actually leading up until about 4 months ago, I worked about 80 to 120 hours a week, 7 days a week. As an entrepreneur, obviously you work every day. And if you really want to see something happen, you have to put that grind in. You have to put that work in. If you expect to put 40 hours into your business, and for your business to turn out to be, this amazing $1 million company, it's not going to happen. You need to be different. You need to be that 1%, and you need to, I'm not talking about the 1% of high earners, but the 1% of leaders, right, of entrepreneurs. And it's a huge risk. So put that work in, and it will come, and you won't see the money. I pay myself enough to get by, but I haven't paid myself a salary. And that's okay, because I'm creating other jobs. We're creating 80 jobs, and we helping other restaurants make jobs, and so the value that we're bringing not only to the community but to the other businesses and people here. So that's what I'm focused on. I'm obsessed with the customer experience.
Thank you. I would say, do not be afraid to fail, and to fail fast and fail forward. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from the things that worked that didn't work, because that's going to get you to the next level. Being afraid to fail is what is the fear from us from starting, that we may not do exactly what we think that it's going to do, so we're not even going to start because of that fear of failing. So do not be afraid to fail, and I encourage you to fail quickly and fail forward into your destiny, into your success, because that's what's going to happen. And the second thing I want to say is, if you have iTunes, download my podcast. It's called Pushed Into Purpose Podcast. Subscribe and rate it. Thank you.
And I'd like to give you all a round of applause. Thank you so much for coming out.